December 25th, 1945. Christmas morning, a house burned to the ground. 2 parents and 4 children made it out alive, but 5 children were never seen again. No bodies, no bones, not even a single tooth was ever found. Fire officials said the children burned to ash. Their own mother never believed that. Not for a single day until she died. This isn't fiction. This is one of America's most disturbing unsolved mysteries. And to this day, nobody knows what really happened. George Sodder came to America from Italy at just 13 years old, completely alone. Through years of hard work, he built his own trucking business in the small town of Fayetteville, West Virginia. He and his wife Jenny raised 10 children together. Their oldest son, Joe, was away serving in the army, leaving 9 kids at home. George was known for being outspoken, especially against Mussolini and Italy's fascist government. That kind of talk didn't sit well with some people in the local Italian-American community. Christmas Eve, 1945. The house was full of warmth. The kids were allowed to stay up late, opening presents, eating sweets. Everything felt completely normal, but before that night, there had already been a string of strange incidents, ones that would only matter later. A few weeks earlier, a life insurance salesman had come to the house. When George turned down the policy, the man got furious. He warned George that his house would go up in smoke and his children would be destroyed, all because of what George had been saying about Mussolini. Days later, a stranger showed up looking for work. He wandered around to the back of the house and told George that his fuse boxers would cause a fire someday. George found that odd. He'd just had the wiring inspected, and the electric company confirmed it was safe. In the weeks before Christmas, the family kept noticing an unfamiliar car parked nearby, watching the younger kids as they walked home from school. At the time, none of it seemed connected. Just a few strange coincidences. Around 1 a.m., Jenny got a phone call, a woman's voice on the other end, asking for someone she didn't recognize. Laughter in the background. Confused, thinking it was a wrong number, she hung up. Minutes later, she noticed part of the house was already on fire. George, Jenny, and 4 of their children, Marion, George Jr., John, and the youngest, 2-year-old Sylvia, managed to get out. But 5 children, Maurice, 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jenny, 8, and Betty, 5, were still upstairs. George ran for his ladder to reach the upstairs window. It wasn't where it always was. He tried starting both of his work trucks to drive them close enough to climb up. Trucks that had run perfectly fine the day before. Neither one would start. Marion ran to a neighbor's house to call the fire department. No one answered. Another neighbor had to go find the fire chief in person. The fire department, just 2 miles away, didn't arrive until 8 a.m., 7 hours later. Local officials ruled the fire was caused by faulty wiring and that the 5 children had burned completely to ash. George and Jenny never accepted that, and the more they dug, the stranger things got. If the fire was electrical, why did the Christmas lights stay on, even after the blaze started, when the power should have cut out immediately? The phone line, which they assumed had burned through, turned out to have been cleanly cut, not melted. Cut. The missing ladder was later found 75 feet from the house, hidden beneath an embankment. But the most disturbing detail of all, the house burned to the ground in just 45 minutes. Yet officials claimed the fire had been hot enough to reduce 5 children's bodies to nothing. An undertaker later told Jenny that human bones can survive burning at to 0 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 full hours and still be identifiable. This fire lasted 45 minutes, and metal kitchen appliances and bed springs were found, completely intact in the wreckage. Not one bone, not one tooth, nothing. As time went on, strange reports started coming in. One woman claimed she saw the children in a passing car, watching the fire from the road. Another said she saw them the next morning at a rest stop between Fayetteville and Charleston. A hotel employee in Charleston reported seeing 4 children with 2 unfamiliar adults, the kids unusually quiet, the adults refusing to speak with staff. George personally chased down leads as far as Texas, Florida, and Missouri. Every single one hit a dead end. The family even dug through the wreckage themselves. In 1949, a follow-up search turned up small bone fragments, but they showed no fire damage at all, suggesting they'd come from somewhere else entirely. Possibly mixed into the dirt, George used to build a memorial garden on the site. In 1952, George and Jenny put up a massive billboard along Route 16, photos of all 5 children, and a reward that grew from $5,000 to $10,000 for any information. That billboard stood for nearly 4 decades, until Jenny passed away in 1989. The most shocking moment came in 1968. Jenny received an anonymous letter, postmarked from Kentucky. Inside was a photograph of a man in his 30s, his face bearing an uncanny resemblance to Louis. The letter read simply, "Love, Louis Sodder." The family chased that lead to they were never able to confirm whether it was really him. George passed away in 1969. Jenny lived until 1989, wearing black for the rest of her life, tending the memorial garden where their home once stood. Their youngest daughter, Sylvia, just 2 years old the night of the fire, believed until her own death in 2021 that her siblings had survived. She'd promised her mother she would never let the story die. Today, almost 80 years later, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty Sodder have never been officially declared dead or found alive. The case remains open to this day. Did they die in that fire? Or did someone take them that night, using the chaos as cover? Nobody knows, and maybe nobody ever will. This isn't fiction. This is a real, documented case that's still considered one of America's most disturbing, unsolved mysteries. If you ever find yourself driving through Fayetteville, West Virginia, keep an eye on Route 16. Something might still be waiting there. If this story got to you, drop Sodder in the comments and tell me what you think really happened to those kids.